here tonight with Mark. He is the chaplain of Road Home. Mark, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you do for the Road Home program.
My name is Mark Schimmelfennig. I'm the staff chaplain for the Road Home program at Rush University. It is the Center for Veterans and Families, and I pretty much am responsible for the spiritual care of the vets and families who come through our door, and that is primarily dealing with post-traumatic recovery and moral injury repair.
Mark, tell us what, for those who don't know, tell us what moral injury really comes down to.
Well, what moral injury is simply when you violate your moral code, however that looks, and you feel like you've done something wrong that goes against that moral code.
So like if you're a Christian and your beliefs are, strong Christian beliefs, and then you're forced to do something that's against that belief.
Well, it doesn't even need to go that far, actually. We are all born and raised with a moral code. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, things like that. Now, if you are brought up in a faith community and have a faith tradition, that is part of the code.
Right.
All right. When we join the military, there is a warrior code or a warrior ethos, if you will, that is imprinted onto the moral code. And then when military personnel go into combat and suffer trauma or witness trauma, that moral code, that whole code, is shattered.
Mark, how does somebody know if they suffer from moral injury? What are the symptoms of it? How would they recognize that?
Well, first of all, if you feel that you've done something or witnessed something that, by those actions, you feel that you are no longer a worthy, quote-unquote, worthy human being, that's the first sign. Other ways that moral injury manifests itself is shame, guilt,
Right.
self-sabotage, a break with your faith and your faith tradition, a feeling that you are beyond redemption, beyond forgiveness, and you just are not a worthy human being. And that if you shared your experience, and another thing, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
That if you shared those experiences with loved ones especially, or friends, that they would never look at you the same again.
Right. How does your faith play a part in that?
Well, in a couple of ways. If you're raised in a faith tradition, then you have the tenets of your faith. For instance, Christian, I'm a Presbyterian, and the God I worship is a God of redemption, the God of compassion, a God of forgiveness. And being raised in a Christian household, I was also raised with the commandments and the difference between right and wrong.
Sure.
And what happens when that is all shattered, a veteran will often feel that they are beyond what God will forgive them for. They have gone too far.
Right.
God no longer loves them, God can no longer forgive them, and they are tainted goods, basically.
So what would you say the process is for healing then? What would you do to begin your healing?
Well, whether or not faith plays a part in your life before you suffer moral injury, part of it is that you have to be able to forgive yourself. You have to be able to forgive yourself. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Yeah, what do you mean? Explain forgive yourself in what way?
Well, through what we do, so for instance, what we do at the Road Home, we take people's traumas apart, we pick them apart, and we're able to show them that there's more to it than their own impression of what happened.
Okay.
So often, when all the facts are in, so to speak, a veteran will often find that, you know what, it wasn't their fault.
Right.
Or there wasn't anything they could have done to save their buddy. Or it wasn't the way they thought it was. There were other things going on, but because they were so close to the situation, that's the only view that they have.
Mark, what would you say the percentages of the moral injury as opposed to just PTSD from combat?
Well, and I'm not a clinician, but as a
Do
chaplain,
you see more of it?
absolutely.
And it is becoming more prominent
Yes.
in our struggles?
Yes, and see, another thing about my position at Rush is I provide what they call the fourth pillar of care. I provide spiritual care in addition to physical, psychological, and whatnot. So a vet will come into our program, or a vet can come into any program, and it will be primarily clinically based. So you have social workers, psychiatrists, psychologists working to help that vet get through their trauma. I come from a different direction. My first question is usually, how's your soul? And that's a good place to start.
So then it's becoming more evident that
Yes.
there's more people suffering from moral injury than
Yes,
before.
absolutely.
With Road Home, I mean, what would somebody have to do to get involved with the Road Home program? What's the first step they take?
Well, first of all, they have to have come to this decision that they need help. Okay, and that
Right.
goes for anybody. Now, there are different ways you can get involved in the Road Home. We have the roadhomeprogram.org website where
Yeah,
they can
let me
make.
show them
Oh,
that here.
okay.
That's the website you'd go to. It's
That's
just
it.
the roadhomeprogram.org, and they can get whatever information they can from
Yes,
that.
they can. They can get an overview of the services that we offer, and all those sorts of things. We have different clinicians give their take on the program, and there is a link that people can go to fill out their own information if they want to get involved with the Road Home, or if they want more information about the services that we have.
It sounds like it's a great program for our veterans that are struggling with that. What else can you tell us about, when did this first come about, this moral injury? I mean,
Well, moral injury has been around as long as there's
we're
been
just hearing more and more about it now, though.
Well, it's becoming, and I'm not quite sure why it's coming to the forefront now. Perhaps because of all the work that's been done with PTSD. But moral injury has been around as long as there's been warfare. And as long as any person who has seen combat and feels that they've done something that has gone up against their code, against their beliefs, it's there. It's a reality.
Could I suffer from moral injury without knowing it? I mean, could it
Sure,
be?
sure. It's certainly possible. Avoidance is, avoidance is one of the issues with PTSD. Avoidance is an issue as well with moral injury. You may not really understand why you feel shame or guilt, or you engage in self-sabotaging behavior. Those are all different manifestations of moral injury. But, a lot of times something will happen, traumas will happen. The veteran is very focused on the trauma itself, and they may feel that they've come to terms with the trauma. But then as time goes on afterwards, something is not right.
Right.
Something is missing. So, you could feel, I lost something over there.
Sure.
Something died inside. I mean, those are all things that vets will describe how they're feeling.
Right.
But they haven't had a chance to really enunciate it in a way that resonates.
Right.
So one of the things I simply try and do by starting with a question like, how's your soul? It can open a door.
Mark, let me ask you another question. How does it have any effect on a family? of someone who's suffering from that? Is there any kind of link between the person with moral
Oh,
injury
yes,
and the
yes,
family?
yes, there is. Because those feelings of shame and guilt, and especially the feelings of I'm a monster, I cannot share what I went through with my family, they will never love me anymore.
Right.
They will think I'm a bad person, all of that. So the vet will often, in their mind, say that they're protecting their family from these
Right.
truths. And by keeping it in, it's festering, and it comes out in other ways: anger, avoidance, shutting yourself off from family and reality
Right.
and everything else. And yes, it definitely affects the family.
So is there, through the Road Home program, is there counseling for the family as well as
Yes.
the veteran
We have
himself?
a family program which consists of amazing therapists, social workers.
I know, I've worked with some
And
of them.
they work congruently with the clinicians and such on the veteran side.
Right.
And right now, for instance, we are having our third week of our intensive outpatient cohort, which I
Right.
can explain a little more. But
Yeah,
the
I
third
wish you
week
would.
of that cohort, the support people, i.e. spouses, mates, partners, family, come, and we have a week-long course for them specifically
Right.
to round out and add value, if you will, to what's going on with the veteran. So they have a better understanding of what's going on with their veteran, but at the same time,
Right.
they get a chance to tell their story too, because families go through their own trauma
Right.
and their own stresses and their own issues. So to have these family members have the opportunity to be able to tell their stories and understand that they're not alone in what they've been going through can be very healing.
I've attended, I've been fortunate to attend one of your graduating classes from that intensive 3-week program. And just to hear the stories from these guys and the difference that the program at Road Home has made, it was, I mean, I was just taken back by it. I mean, that's, just to listen to how much the program has changed their life and what they're going through, was, I was just amazed by it, you know.
Well, thank you. I am so fortunate to work with the caliber of people I do.
You know, I mean, it's the difference that you make with your program at Road Home. We see it because we work with your veterans through the service dog program that we have at K9, and just talking to them and the attitude that they have about the Road Home program and how much it's meant to them. It's amazing. It really is. You guys are doing such great work for our veterans that are coming home and need the help that they're getting from Road Home. It's really great.
Well, thank you. And the website is not the only way that a veteran can get connected with Road Home. We have a working relationship with Wounded Warrior, so if you're a post 9/11 vet, you can get in touch with us and get hooked up with us through Wounded Warrior. Referrals from the VA and word of mouth. We've gone through 20. Tomorrow we will graduate our 21st cohort with our intensive outpatient program,
Really?
which is 3 weeks of very
Intense
intensive,
program, yeah.
intense, 5 days a week, 9 hours a day. And, when they graduate, and you've heard the differences it's made in
The
some
testimonies
people's
from these
life.
guys are unbelievable.
And, we consider that to be the end of the beginning.
Right.
Okay, and it's not a cure-all. They still need to do work, they still need to keep doing what they're doing, but we're able to give them the tools
That they
to be
need,
able
right.
to, that they can take with them, and other different therapy modalities that they may have been exposed to at the Road Home to continue their therapy, such as mindfulness, yoga, art therapy,
I know, it's
nutrition,
amazing
things like that.
what you do with these guys. It truly is. For those
And ladies.
and ladies,
and
yes,
ladies.
let's not forget the ladies. What you can do also is, this is K9 for Veterans. You can contact us for more information. We're located at 5430 West Roosevelt Road in Chicago. Our phone number is 773-854-1000. If you have any questions about the Road Home program, you can call us and we can tell you firsthand exactly how much it's meant to the veterans that we've dealt with at K9 for Veterans. It's just, what more can you tell us about that 3-week intensive program?
Well, the IOP, the Intensive Outpatient Program, is a 3-week program where we combine all of the assets of the road home, if you will, to help these veterans and their families. We use a specific treatment modality called clinical processing therapy, CPT.
Mm-hmm.
And the meat and potatoes of the IOP is group. And these veterans are put into a group in a room with 2 facilitators, 2 clinicians. I sit in the back. I'm part of it too, just as a presence, a ministry of presence and support. And this is where the veterans talk about their impact trauma. That they may have seen many traumas in their deployments and their duty. But what we ask them to share is, what to you is that trauma that changed you the most? Okay? And then we ask them to talk about it. We ask them to describe it. And then in group, they have other veterans who've suffered traumas as well, been in combat, all those sorts of things. They question the event that the veterans described. Mm-hmm. And that's where I was talking about earlier, where you're able to get perspective of that there are things happening that happened before the trauma, during the trauma, after the trauma, that the veteran themselves may not have understood or realized or thought about. And so think of it as you're kind of up against a wall or up against a mirror, and all you can see is this. But as with CPT and the group therapy that we have, we get the veteran to step back, if you will, and get better perspective for the whole event rather than just one piece of it.
Do you find that you have more veterans coming in for this program?
We are scheduled, we have IOP scheduled through the end of 2018.
Really? And is it every 3 weeks they have a program? Is there
We have a 3-week program, a week off, then we'll do another 3-week program. The next program we're going to start after Thanksgiving will be a program specifically addressing military sexual trauma.
How explain that, how that works? I mean,
Well, it's an unfortunate fact that military sexual trauma exists, and it exists more than I think the DoD wants to admit. And there have been men and women who have suffered military sexual trauma. They're survivors of it. And we do our best to help bring them back to a point where, just like the veterans with PTSD, that they're able to better deal with what happened, and we give them the same types of skills that we would with the combat vets.
do you find it's
go
harder
forward.
for them to come forward with military sexual trauma than it is for the veterans to come forward with, PTSD or, to acknowledge that happened?
In some cases, yes. In some cases, yes. And I'll be the first one to admit, I'm not, I don't know what they've gone through.
Right.
Okay. All I can do is offer a presence. And hopefully that's enough. But the clinicians that are responsible for helping with the military sexual trauma cohorts are experts in their field.
Right.
And I'll admit, when I started at the Road Home, I had not worked with MST patients, and I have learned so much from them, but I still have a lot to learn. But they have a very unique set of things that they're going through
Right.
based on their trauma, and we do our best to help.
Let me add that if anybody in our viewing audience has any questions for Mark, feel free to call 312-738-1060, and I'm sure Mark would be more than happy to answer any questions you have.
I'll try.
Mark, tell us some more about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I grew up with a Roman Catholic background, and so in my own journey, I was raised with a moral compass, obviously, and a faith tradition that was imprinted on that. I'm a veteran, and suffice to say, I've taken my own road home, and my drug of choice was alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And short story is, I finally figured out what God wanted me to do, and
That was my next question. How
Yes.
did you wind up being a chaplain?
well, I from a very young age, I knew that God had a plan for me, but instead of just waiting for it all to happen and discern that, I figured I'd go out and figure that out all on my own. And I was in my 40s before I had dinner with a friend who basically said, you know what, as long as I've known you, you've gone out and tried to find God, under every rock and in every closet, etc. You don't go find God. God finds you, and God found you a long time ago. So get used to the idea. It took me 3 years, but then I applied for entry into seminary. I'm a graduate of McCormick Theological Seminary down in Hyde Park. And through my seminary training, I found my passion in chaplaincy, where you cross the threshold of a patient's room and you leave all of that stuff outside.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be organized religion, this,
Right.
that, or the other thing, you were going in to see somebody who needs help and who's looking for hope and comfort. Someone who wants to tell their story. A family that is scared about their loved one having surgery the next day.
Right.
Somebody who might have had life-changing news the last hour. Just being a ministry of presence, a vehicle, if you will, or a conduit of God's grace through the power of the Holy Spirit. And that's my theology.
Wow.
It's
So
it's wonderful.
You had your own road home then.
Yes.
I also want to take time to thank you. We're having a Thanksgiving dinner at K9 for veterans, and also we're having a Christmas dinner. And Mark was gracious enough to offer to play Santa Claus
Well,
for our veterans' children's.
I've been Santa for many, many years.
That beard really works for you.
No. I'm going to have to shave this off after Thanksgiving and use the real one.
Really?
But Mike, one thing I wanted to say about the synergy between what you do at K9 and what we try to do at the center, not only with PTSD but moral injury, is that many of these vets feel that they're not worthy. Okay, they're not worthy of love, redemption, any of the above. But being hooked up with a service dog,
Yeah.
okay, you have an animal who is giving unconditional love.
The best quality.
Yes, and to someone who feels that they're not worthy of love,
Right.
that they're not worthy of someone that cares about them,
Right.
that kind of unconditional love that a dog can bring can really make a difference.
You made a comment earlier when we were talking before we came in for the show that, you noticed the difference in the veterans that we've helped with service dogs.
Yes.
And that was, the greatest compliment you could pay us.
Mike, it's the simple
Because
truth.
that's
It's
what
a simple
we
truth.
strive for.
Yes.
Mark, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. And, so anybody, if you have any questions, again, let me flash Mark's information. Please go to the Road Home website and check it out, and Mark would be more than happy to answer any questions you have. All I can tell you is it's an awesome program. I've been with Mark a few times now, and he's definitely sincere about what he's saying. And if you're suffering from PTSD, TBI, MST, please go and get some help. And Road Home would be my recommendation to go to for your first place to go.
Thank you.
Because it's just an awesome program, it really is.
Well, thanks, Mike, and so is yours.
Well, thank you again. Anything you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
No, just to reiterate what you said, Mike, if there are veterans out there, it doesn't matter what era you're from, Vietnam, Persian Gulf. We even have vets from the Korean War who come in to utilize our services. If you feel you need help and you haven't been able to get it from other places, please, please, please try and get a hold of the Road Home. We will do our very best to help.
I've seen what the changes in the guys that have been through that program, intensive program, and it's just really, all I could tell you is that, like, when I went to the graduation for the class, I mean, just the idea that these guys were stepping forward to express themselves and what they've been through, it's truly amazing.
It's pretty profound, but we also have a full full range of outpatient services. So if people want to come,
Go to the website.
go to the website and get it checked out.
Mark.
So IOP, outpatient services, we can do both.
Thank you so much for being a
Thank you,
guest
sir.
tonight,
All
and
right.
we appreciate it. Thank you.
Peace.